First by Ryan Karanjawala. Ryan Karanjawala is one of the best known lawyers in the country. He's an expert legal strategist. He's the managing partner of Karanjawala and Company. And he's the lawyer in the defamation case by former diplomat Lakshmi Puri, who is being represented by him. Ryan, thanks for joining us. We've shared some details of this case with our viewers. Now, I'll just say by way of introduction that this case involves a Congress member who's essentially tried to spread a litany of lies against Lakshmi Puri, who's been an accomplished diplomat, first for the government of India, then for the United Nations. She happens to be the wife of Union Cabinet Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, who has an impeccable record as one of the highest performing ministers in the Modi government, was given additional responsibilities yesterday. What is the larger point that you're making? Most people would say, Ryan, that when someone throws a stone at you, don't question the person because you've got more to lose. You've got your reputation to lose. You don't want to, as the saying goes, wrestle with pigs. And that's a metaphor, by the way. But in this particular case, your client has decided to take on this individual. Why?
First, can you hear me?
Yes, Ryan.
So first and the most important thing to remember is that when Saket Gokhale tweeted about something, what he tweeted about was an incident that took place in the year 2006, when my client, who was living in Switzerland, along with her husband at that time, went and bought a flat. He, in his tweet, alleged that since they were both Indian diplomats, they wouldn't have had the wherewithal to purchase that flat. He had before him the accounts disclosed by my client's husband in the two Rajya Sabhas that he contested. All his assets were disclosed to the world at large. Despite the great elapse of time, Saket Gokhale did not choose to write to my client and say, I intend to tweet about this purchase. Please explain to me where you have got the money for this particular purchase. We would have immediately clarified that his whole tweet was on a completely wrong basis. He assumed that she was a member of the Indian Foreign Service at that point of time. In fact, she was on a UN, she was working with the UN, not as being delegated, but in fact, he had been employed by the UN from the year 2002. Her salary was about $200,000 a year. Her husband with perks and all was getting another $150,000 a year. They had disclosed also that they had taken a mortgage in order to purchase this particular flat, and everything was completely above board. Now, I don't want to impute motives, but the wicked people will. The question is, when you are talking about something that took place so long ago, why didn't you just bother to check up whether your facts were correct? We gave him an opportunity. Or if you remember, Arunabh, on your channel itself, I had come on after issuing the notice, and we told him there and then. And I said, there's no harm in apologizing and admitting your mistake. If there is redressal, we will allow the matter to lay at rest. But if not, then we will sue. And we had also clarified that this is not about the money. This is not about the 5 crores that we hope to claim in damages, because that, whatever level of damage we get, if we get any damages, will go directly to the PM CARES Fund. And we had said that, I had said that then, and we have said that in our petition in the Delhi High Court. So once he was adamant, and he said, no, I am not going, and he did not withdraw his tweet, we were left with no choice, and we filed. That's exactly what happened. And let me assure you, Hardeep,
to my question, Ryan. No, but to my question, Ryan, you're saying we'll see through till the end, right?
Correct.
Most people don't say that. Most people don't say that. Most people say, listen, the damage is done. And the response would be that if you give these vultures, and I'm not calling any individual a vulture, I'm just saying an overall, I'm using it as a phrase. If you give vultures or those who attack in groups any importance, you have more to lose because they have nothing to lose. For them, they troll and abuse for a living. A person with a reputation would not respond because they would feel they have more to lose in responding to these individuals than in doing so.
First, Arunabh, let me explain to you the difference between a defamation 20, 25 years ago and a defamation today. What happened was 20 to 25 years ago, you were defamed if a particular newspaper or said something against you, or if there was a book written about you, or if someone on TV said something about you. But all these things, namely the TV channel, the newspaper, had a filter. Before what the person said came into the public domain, there was someone who looked at it and said, no, this we can't allow to go through, this we will. And there was a filter. There was a process of internal adjudication before that statement was made. What happens with the social media, what happens with Twitter, what happens with Facebook, is that everybody is a TV channel or a newspaper in himself. So today you can go, as you rightly pointed out, and just tweet off. And you'll be surprised to know, Arunabh, or I'm sure you already do, that there are 6,000 tweets issued out every second. India has a Twitter following of about 170 million people. So very often what people do, and very often sometimes we even advise our clients, we feel that the defamation is not so severe, that, well, if you come forward and you fight the case, then there's going to be a long drawn situation and a fair amount of pain, maybe a fair amount of expenditure. So if you can live with the defamation, live with it. But I frankly feel, Arunabh, and I said that earlier also on a program of yours, that the time has come, just as, for example, in the cases of public servants, any public servant who is criminally prosecuted, now the legislature and the courts adjudicate that those matters will be disposed of within a time-bound frame, 1.5 years, 1 year, 2 years. I think the same thing has come, that keeping in mind the power of the internet, keeping in mind the effect that the internet has on people, that you use the same formula for defamation. And you say that at least at the trial stage, I'm not necessarily saying from the trial court all the way to the Supreme Court, but you say at least at the trial stage, everything will be disposed of within 2 years. Then you will start seeing the difference in people's reactions and the additional caution with which they begin to tweet. And you don't need 5,000 cases all over India for that. You just need about 100 cases in the High Court which come to fruition within a year or two, and which are publicized, because, and when people realize
because
that,
it's because I've seen here now, Ryan, that this has become an epidemic, Ryan, an epidemic. Right now,
so
I'm surrounded by people all over the country are responding, saying, I can tell you a case or two where someone's reputation has been tarnished, where some abuse has been put out. And then you see, on the basis of flimsy or unresearched information, a big headline is drawn, then that is clickbaited, and then that is forwarded to a lot of people. And the person with a reputation, would then cower and say that I don't want to engage with these people, because you respond once and they're like locusts. They will come back in a wave. So what I was saying is that we need to snatch away from these opportunists, these blackmailers, the right to use phrases such as freedom of expression or the right to dissent, because Ryan, blackmail is not dissent. Lying is not the freedom of expression. So where do we draw that line?
Yeah, so two things. The other thing that I want to mention to you, which you haven't mentioned, is increasingly, because of the internet today, there is something called a cancel culture. A cancel culture is when a person who is defamed, who is a well-known celebrity or is otherwise socially well-known, suddenly he starts finding that he begins to get ostracized merely on the basis of these tweets. Suddenly, if you're a celebrity, or you suddenly find that all your endorsements are removed because somebody has tweeted something against you which is not true. This is what is the cancel culture. Now, freedom of speech has its own place and it must remain there because it's an integral part of our country's ethos. And it is a very important right. But as you rightly pointed out, blackmail, per se defamation, these are not aspects of freedom of speech. The punishment for that is either a criminal case for defamation or a civil case for defamation. And I also feel the time has come when people increase the limitation of 1 year for civil defamation to 3 years, like it is in criminal law. So the point we have to make here is that it is time that the courts and the legislation looked more closely at the law of defamation, and just as they have done in other cases, decided that, yes, this is a matter which requires urgency. This is a matter which should be dealt with on an expeditious basis. Because honor, reputation is as important as property.
Well, absolutely. And in this case, I think, your clients admirably decided to take on this particular individual. We're tracking the case very closely, Ryan. Yes, Ryan.
I said one thing on your show earlier. I said, what you have forgotten, what they forgot was, these are middle-class people. These are people who have worked hard. She sat for a competitive exam and came second in the All India IAS competitive exams. These are middle-class people. These are people who have worked hard to achieve where they and get where they have. They hold their honor more precious than money. And they are not going to let you get away with it.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, we're watching that case very closely. And viewers, you want to follow this case of Saket Gokhale. I can tell you a lot of us, Ryan, a lot of us are watching this case very closely. Because once in this case, if whichever decision the High Court takes will become a precedent. And everybody who thinks that they will get away on Twitter or YouTube by making all kinds of statements, drawing unfortunate comparisons, trying to spoil personal and corporate reputations, better watch out. This is a very, very, I would say it's one of those watershed cases, Ryan. So best of luck for that. Thank you and good to see you tonight. Ryan Karanjawala, thank you very much.